Today, let's talk about ADHD, which is nothing but Attention Deficit Hyperactive Disorder. ADHD is one of the commonly known neurodevelopmental disorder which is generally diagnosed in childhood but persists into the adulthood also. Right, we come across many children whom we think they are just naughty kids. There is always a difference between naughtiness and a child with ADHD or hyperactivity. Generally, naughty kids tends to do the things in a hyperactive manner only in the known scenarios or the setups, just like in your home-based setups. But whereas when we call it an ADHD kid or ADHD behavior, they tend to do it across the scenarios. Even they perform the activities in a similar way at a school setting or in a hospital setting or wherever you go to the functions or any other place. ADHD typically is termed as, if you see a persistent inability to concentrate and a persistence in hyperactivity, inattention and impulsivity, is often termed as ADHD. And this impulsivity or hyperactivity is going to be high when compared to similar age kids, and it should be persistent enough in order to be termed as ADHD. Let's look into signs and symptoms of ADHD. Generally, the children who are suffering with ADHD often tends to be looked as a very clumsy child. They tend to skip on their homeworks, or even if they write, they might be writing it in a very illegible manner. The handwriting might be very poor. They tend to do the things just for sake of doing it. They'll just rush up with the activities, finish it off and run away from there because they are suffering with inattention or sitting tolerance. That's where we need to sit at one place, attend to it and complete the activity. That is one of the common symptoms which is often reported. Also, these kids will have difficulty in resisting their temptations. They would be so impulsive that they tend to do things without thinking about the end result of it. And these children might tend to talk too much, and they might talk in an inappropriate manner. I think you are getting it. Some people, even if we are indulged in the conversation, the kids with ADHD might just come in between and talk something inappropriate to the scenario. They'll have difficulty in maintaining the pragmatic skills. That's nothing but your turn-taking skills in the conversations, which is one of a basic rule to maintain conversation. These kids might not show interest specifically with respect to academics, or might be something where you give a target to them. And children with ADHD might also have fidgeting habit. They tend to move their bodies or move their fingers or do some other secondary behavior which is often related to fidgeting. The prevalence rates of ADHD is quite variable. It can range from 3 to 8% in children to 2% in the adults. It's variable across the world. One of the studies done by Thomas et al. Using a systematic review states that the average prevalence rate of ADHD is going to be 7.2% across the world. And as per the studies of NHS, that's the National Health Service System in the UK, reveals that around 3 to 5% of UK children are suffering with ADHD. Whereas one of the US-based studies by NHIS, that's the National Health Interview Survey, reports that ADHD rates can be overall from 10.2%, and the incidence or prevalence of ADHD is high in male when compared to the female children. It is around 4:1%. Also, the severity of ADHD is less in girl children when compared to the boy children. The Indian studies quotes that the prevalence of ADHD in India is supposed to vary from 1.6% to 17.9%. according to the Pawan et al. In a 2020 systematic review study. In our next video, we will be looking into types of ADHD, how do we need to diagnose, and the treatment related to ADHD, and the most important thing, tips for the parents in order to deal with children suffering from ADHD disorders. Thank you. See you soon.